Nice day here at the Alawai Canal. Got a good little spot here, which is rare to get one of these tree spots, but that's neither here nor there nor anywhere. The Batman. Oh man. Wow. I didn't expect it to make me angry, but before we go into it too, it's like, it's desperation. They're desperate right now. The beast is dying. As I often say, it's like a monstrous blob thing with its tentacles flailing everywhere in its death throes. And in its death throes, it becomes desperate. It's trying to take down anything it can before it dies. So, like, I'm watching this movie, and it took me a while to get to it. I just didn't care as much, It's like, how many times are we going to do this sort of same thing again? It's hard for me to care about any kind of entertainment media anymore. I have a harder time consuming it. But as a fan since I was 6, and still, very much am, if you've seen videos from inside my place, I just wasn't all that psyched to watch it. I heard a lot of, it seemed to be polarizing, people either say it's great or they say it sucks. So I'm watching this, 2 hours in, I'm like, this isn't that bad. It's pretty cool. Like, for once in a movie, Batman's a detective, which is, what he's supposed to be, really. Well, that's supposed to be his main thing. And, the actors are all good. I liked the whole thing. People said it dragged, but it didn't drag for me. So at 2 hours, I'm like, all right, well, this is good. And I'm thinking, what the hell else are they going to do for another hour? Well, oddly, he's wrapping up the Falcone Riddler thing, and he's just going to go after YouTube and 4chan. In a completely unrelated plot that doesn't make any sense and doesn't fit with the motivations of the character of the Riddler in the first 2 hours of the movie. It's just like this whole tacked on thing. And I'll explain what I mean. There's a point in the film where they already have the Riddler in custody, and the Falcone thing is wrapped up. He ends up getting killed. It seemed like the natural end. I mean, of course they'd have to have some sort of scenes with the Riddler after he's been caught. I'm sure, I'm just thinking to myself, like, what are they gonna do, right? So then they're in, like, the Riddler's place, and they get that last video that was encrypted, and they start playing it. And when I saw the Riddler sit down and say, hey guys, a fucking chill went through my body. And I was like, oh, no. They're not doing this, are they? And then he starts talking about how great it is to have a community of, and I'm paraphrasing here, of like-minded people, and the support, stuff that I've kind of said myself. And what they were, and I knew immediately where they were taking this thing. And the thing is with blogging, content creators, stuff on YouTube or BitChute, wherever people upload videos, old media doesn't like this. Because back in the day, and the day being less than 20 years ago, I mean, YouTube really started getting big in, what, 2007? It turned into what it is now. So, back in the day, if you wanted to even do something like what I'm doing right now, there was a process. You had to be vetted. You had to become part of the system. Anyone that could pull up a soapbox in the public square of any kind and start addressing more than a dozen people they didn't, you know, you couldn't do that. You know, you had to be owned by them. Whoever you think them are. There's all kinds of different minions that fall under that umbrella. Ultimately, the opposing force, or the evil that is bearing down on us in this world, the controllers, the farmers, whatever. They don't like this situation where someone like me can just get on and start talking to people, because there is there's a possibility, and you know, we see it with a lot of creators where they end up talking to millions of people. I mean, you know, PewDiePie or JonTron or any of those types of guys, they didn't go through the vetting process that you have to go through and jump through all the hoops you have to jump through, sacrifice a few of your relatives, and sign your name in blood and drink someone's pee. You didn't have to do any of that. You don't have to do any of that stuff now to possibly talk to a large group of people. Now, most people who do this kind of thing, you know, they end up like me. Like, they got like a small group of people that are watching you. But those are the exact people they're targeting with this whole thing. What they're trying to paint a picture of is people that do build a small community or have some kind of following that they talk to on a regular basis, unfiltered and uncensored. They're trying to say those people are potentially, or are the Riddler, an evil, psychotic weirdo that wants to kill people. Before he sat down with the Hi Guys video, what he was doing kind of made sense. He was going after prominent people in the city that contributed to what he saw as the corruption, and you know, and then post Hi Guys, he just decides to be Maniac Guy and like blow up the seawall to flood the city, or I don't know, because he browses 4chan. And then his little community decide they're all going to be killers too, and they're going to dress up like him, and they're going to get these weapons and go out and kill people because they browse 4chan and they're incels. It's so insane. It's just so silly. What they're trying to do, and I mean, it's pretty obvious and transparent, is that they're trying to tell normies that if someone has like a YouTube channel or a BitChute thing where they talk to people and they have people that tune into them, well, that's absolutely dangerous. And these maniacs can strap on guns and shoot stunning and brave politicians. It was sickening, man. It was like they're really coming after fucking just content creators. That's exactly what they're doing. Exactly what they're doing. And there's also like an incel kind of angle to the whole thing, because Riddler is a lonely white male who's just mad at the world and just wants to indiscriminately gun people down and flood their city. That whole last part of it made no sense. It didn't fit with what was happening before. There was no kind of hint to that, a build up to that. Everything he was doing made sense until the Hey Guys video. And just the way it was presented, it's like that's so many people on YouTube or other file sharing sites. And that's what they're trying to say. You know, they're trying to say people like this are dangerous. People like me are dangerous. And they can absolutely get just random strangers to dress up like them, exactly like them, gear up with a lot of guns, you know, because guns bad, and just start shooting people after blowing up a seawall or yeah, retaining wall. I mean, the likelihood of that happening, it's like, how do these people that follow the Riddler, like, what were they mad about? They liked what he had to say about, even if they did, right? If they liked what he had to say about corruption in the city, why would they then gear up, dress like him, strap on what I'm sure were probably AK-47s in there, and just start randomly shooting people? I mean, if you watched it, and you have a brain in your head, you can see that's exactly what was going on. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have a brain in their head, and they kind of just do what they're told. I mean, as you can see with this whole Cobb thing, there's still people around here that are walking around with masks on. Quite a few of them. People driving in their cars with their masks on. They will do that until the day they die, and they will be fearful and mistrustful of other people who don't do the same thing. What are those beings? Because it runs counter to anything a human would want for themselves. And using the term human, that's just their word for us. And that's really more about the suit, the environmental suit we're in here, the body, the avatar. It was just so enraging that they went that way. They tacked that whole thing on at the end for Batman to fight YouTube and 4chan. It was, I mean, I can't even say it was just an implied thing. You know, they spelled the whole thing out. I mean, it's insane. It's really crazy. They want you to think that anyone who does something like what I'm doing, or anyone else that just uploads videos without being vetted by the system, is absolutely a crazy person, and could very possibly, and most likely will, sniper shot stunning and brave diverse peoples and their incels. And of course, you know, you only see like one guy who takes his mask off. He's, of course, a white dude. But actually, that didn't bother me at first. Like, watching that whole thing, I could see those things slipped in there. You know, it's funny. Like, in cape movies and comic books, and they do this in the actual books, too. The inner city just has all these gangs of white kids. Where you find me like an all-white gang of just bad guys, and they're all trying to get the one black kid to knock that guy out. Like, they're trying to convince him, you know, like, yeah, you can do this. But of course he's good because he's not white, so he's like tossing it over in his mind. He's, you know, they're peer pressuring him, and you know, what that's like a progressive person's like wet dream. It simply doesn't happen. So I guess it fits in with the comic book world. I mean, it can happen. There's, you know, I guess white, well, shit, all I can really think of is movies. Because how could you even have like a white organization of wanting to be violent? You can't. And Riddler, like, but that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, there was that, and then there was Catwoman talking about the rich white men thing. And it's like, well, the ones you're seeing may be white, they may be Italian, But I can guarantee you they're being run by a tribe, you know, a certain tribe who always gets left out of this stuff. Because they have white skin doesn't mean they're white. And I'm talking, of course, about the Keebler-Elves. I just don't trust those fuckers. Sitting in a tree, making cookies. But anyway, I saw those things inserted in. Like all the main dudes, all the main bad dudes are white. All the cops, corrupt cops, are all white. The only good cop on the force is Jim Gordon, who's black. That stuff didn't bother me though. Like, I've seen people complain about that online. I'm like, whatever, it's current year, whatever, they're gonna do that stuff. If you're like a normie, maybe that kind of influences you, but anyone that can see what's going on, it's like the magic trick thing. It's like once you see the trick, once you see the assistant slip the rabbit under the magician's cape, when he pulls it out of a hat, it just doesn't work on you. So yeah, I saw all that stuff placed in here and there. Whatever, it's just funny to me. But whenever they watched that last video and he sits down with the high guys, it was like, it was fucking chilling, man. It was like, wow, are they really gonna do this? And then it just kept getting funnier and funnier. It's like, where do you get, how could, it's just, I mean, I know it's a comic book movie, but that's, I believe almost everything else in that film, up until that point, I could suspend my belief until I got there, and I'm like, oh, they're just trying to demonize people who are talking to people outside the vetting system. You know, and a lot of us can see that, but there are a lot of impressionable people who can't see that, and they're going to relate to that type of thing. A guy like me sitting down going, hi guys, this is a great community that we have here, that, and the thing about, yeah, we've all found each other, he's saying, I've heard people say stuff like that. I kind of talk like that too, like, hey, I'm glad I have guys here, people here that have experienced the same things, and you can bounce ideas off each other. It was deliberate. I mean, it was absolutely, it was, come on, I don't even have to say it. It was just so crazy that they went in that direction. And a lot of it was funny too. The thing with Batman with the torch, leading the kids out of the wreckage in the end, it just looked funny to me. Like, I'm looking at it, it just looks so stupid. Like, yeah, we get it. It's like, even though Batman's a white guy, he's still a good guy. Look, he's saving these people. Fuck you. That's what I get for watching it, though. I mean, that's my fault. I should never watch the damn thing. But, yeah, I did. And it's, up until that point, I was like, this isn't that bad. It's cool. You know, there's a lot of things about it I liked, and, you know, I kind of was confused about the people that have been so loud about it being terrible. But I didn't know this angle was in it. I've heard people talk about how the end of it, Riddler's plan or whatever, is nonsensical and goes against the motivations of the character in the early part of the movie, whatever. And I was like, oh, they just had to have some kind of big ending or some kind of big... I didn't know they were doing this. Crazy. It's just so... like, it's funny, but at the same time, you know, pretty scary. But it shows desperation. They're desperate. They're trying to get anybody that may cause a problem for them now or in the future. The other day I was talking about the guardians of the, I almost said guardians of the kayfabe. That's what it is, though. Guardians of the lighthouse. Guardians of the looking glass. How that is pretty much just cue for people into metaphysical stuff. They're trying to get every subset of people who may be a problem for them now or in the future. And I just couldn't believe that. It was so crazy. It ruined anything else that I thought was good or entertaining about it beforehand. If they just ended it at that 2-hour mark and just had a little wrap up, you know, about putting Riddler in Arkham, and then Batman goes and sees him, and they gotta have this, you know, conversation at the end. That would have been fine. But no, they had to bring a new enemy in for the end of the film, and that enemy is Paul and YouTube. Oh man, I don't think it will change many people's minds, but it's trying to paint a picture of anyone talking outside of official sources is absolutely a possible murderer. Wild. Yeah, so ultimately it ruined the film for me. So whether it's good or bad, I think it's obviously not good. It's bad. It could have been good if they ended at 2 hours, but they had to do this whole, you know, this whole thing at the end, which absolutely tanked the rest of it for me. And the other thing too is, even before that, it's like, man, you know, we just had that thing with Affleck. You know what, 2016 they brought him in, and it's like, you got to go through all the same motions over again, like introducing these characters, and hey, this is, you know, look, it's this guy's the Penguin. Oh, it's the first time meeting. It's like, we're gonna do this again. It's stalled century bullshit. Stalled century meaning, like, after 7-Eleven was an inside job in the early part of the century, it feels like everything's kind of been the same. You used to be able to look at a period of time, like, you know, the 70s, you know, disco, punk rock, bell bottoms, you know, the 80s, Pac-Man, new wave, neon. Like, you could kind of look at, you know, the grunge 90s, the 60s, psychedelic stuff, the 50s, the Greasers, Fonzie. You could, there were things you could point to mark that time. Since the black magic ritual that was 7-Eleven job application, it's kind of been the same. Everything's been the same. They just remake things. You know, that's why we're once again going through this whole thing again with, you know, Batman. It's not just Batman, though. It's like all entertainment media and pretty much everything. You know, technology, too. Like, there used to be advances and stuff. And even, like, to just entertainment media. You know, in the 80s, you had VCRs came out. You know, microwaves came out. But you had VCRs and cassette tapes were the advancement from vinyl. And then the next decade was, oh, you have CDs, and now you have DVD players. We don't have those kind of jumps anymore. It's all just your phone. It's just the phone. They just dump everything on the phone now. And that's kind of how everything is. Like, we're in neutral. And I think something did happen there. I mean, there are other guys that go into that stalled century concept. Much better, I mean, or at all. I don't really know, or I haven't thought that much about that. To me, that feels like a horizontal pursuit. So I try to avoid the horizontal pursuits. You want to keep going up the elevator, not get off on the 24th floor and walk around in circles. You want to keep going up. But, yeah, it's an interesting concept. And that definitely feels like what's going on. There's no new things. Everything is just recycled stuff. And, you know, after a while, it's just, even me, who's like a fan of all that crap, I'm just like, wow, again, we have to, oh, this is Catwoman. Oh, this is, you know, so-and-so. And now we're going to introduce Jim Gordon. It's like, we just, how many, you know, in my mind, you have 5 different Jim Gordons. It's just, it's beat. You know, it's beat. And this, I know people have a much smaller attention span now, but again, we just did the Batman swap over in, you know, 2016 to a new Batman with his new Alfred and his new car. And now we're back to another new Batman, his new, it's like, it's a good metaphor for everything. Whatever. I just watched it, thought it was funny and enraging, and thought I'd sit here on the alloy and bloviate about it. Don't blame the teacher, blame the school.